Welcome back. So we are gearing up for the market open this Monday morning, and Ambareesh Baliga is now joining in. Ambareesh, so what do you expect? It was quite a rock and roll ride last time around. What are we in for this week?
Clearly volatility is there to stay, and I think we need to brace with that volatility even going ahead because you have developments on the political side. We have elections on the anvil. For the next couple of months, clearly you'll have that volatility. But do we really expect the markets to crack further from here? I really don't think so, because I think one of the main triggers going ahead would be monsoons, which again it's expected that it should be normal this time. And again, with the inflation starting to move down, I think these are the positives which are there on the horizon. So I think downside for the market is quite limited, but at the same time I think upside is about 6,200, 6,300.
Sure. Ambareesh, very quickly, Reliance in news this morning with D55. Do you expect any material reaction on the stock?
We should see some reaction, but because of this, do we expect a new run like in Reliance? I don't think so. We could have a knee-jerk reaction. We could see some upside, but I think the major upside will come once we have a clear fix on the gas pricing.
And again, another Reliance company, this time from the other camp, Reliance Communication hitting the headlines for their tariff hike. Same question. Any reaction expected?
Again, I think there could be a small reaction because we should remember that this stock has already moved up close to about 100%. So we really don't expect either 15-20% rise from here because of this tariff hike. But surely there will be some positive reaction, but not really major one.
All right, Ambareesh, just hold that thought. 10 odd seconds left for the markets to kickstart live trading. You're keeping an eye out on Coal India. That's the big ticket earnings as far as trade goes today. We'll keep an eye out for that one. JP Associates making that huge announcement regarding asset sale as well, regarding the land parcel sale. That one also is on the radar. All right, straight away 40-45 points higher for Sensex. 19,747 is what we're tracking. Reliance Industries, that's the big ticket news there. 2.2% higher. Huge up move coming in for the April account there straight away. SBI 0.4% higher. ONGC also is trading higher, what we've seen in terms of initial cues right now. Hindalco, Coal India, that's the earnings today. 1.3% higher is what we've seen. So it's Reliance Industries and Coal India from the top gainers on the index in terms of opening moves. ONGC, NTPC, both are high by almost 0.5% or so is what we're tracking. Tata Steel continues the momentum from its earnings, almost 0.7% higher today as well. Bharti Airtel's up by nearly 0.8%. You got Cipla marginally in green out there. ITC is up by nearly 0.3% as well. That one making a decent up move. But it's all about Reliance Industries and Coal India so far. Reliance up nearly 2.3%. Coal India holding on to gains of almost 1.3% or so. Now in terms of weakness, I think a couple of auto stocks on the lower side today. M&M's down 1%. You have Tata Motors, that's down by nearly 0.6%. Take a look at Maruti, that one's also down by 0.6% or so. Bajaj Auto 0.5% lower. So the auto packs are a little weak right now. Sun Pharma on the other hand is up by nearly 0.4% as well is what we're seeing. IT pack, Infosys down by nearly 0.5%. TCS marginally negative out there is what we've seen. Wipro's trading low as well, but just 0.2% down is what we've seen. In fact, M&M now taking a cut of almost 1%, and Hero Moto also down by almost 1% or so. L&T losing out by nearly 0.4%. And in fact, your Sensex now lower by almost 3 to 4 points. So once again, it's been a slow start on the index. Let's pull out the Nifty heat map and get a quick check going as to what kind of stocks are gaining and losing out there. 22 stocks gaining, 27 stocks losing out is what we're seeing in the index at 5980, just lower by around about 3 to 4 points is what we're seeing. Alright, stock movers, Reliance Industry top gainer there, 2.3% higher straight away. Coal India ahead of its numbers, good 1% up move there. BPCL also trading high by 1% or so. In fact, a couple of losers, look at the first three names in terms of top losers there, all from the auto space. M&M, Maruti, Hero Moto, all taking a knock of 1.5%. Kotak Mahindra Bank and BOB were some of the other losers, along with Kane India, that's also on the lower side out there. Alright, let's pull up some more names and get a check there as well. Van Baxi is actually recovered a little bit, 0.7% higher after the kind of carnage we saw last week. JP Associates 0.3% higher is what we're seeing today. Tata Motors also is down by almost 1%. Tata Power 0.7% lower. So it's all in all, it's a slow start. Once again, 5978 is what we're tracking on the index.
Okay, let's take a look at some stocks that are making it to the headlines this morning. Britannia Industries with a fantabulous performance for the quarter gone by, with their profits have soared 65%. The margins have expanded, and this is what happens to the stock. The aviation pack is really sulking out there. SpiceJet has posted again about a 200 crore rupee loss. Again, Jet Airways has struggled with costs really mounting high on lease back and rental of aircraft. So both the aviation counters are down between 3 and 5.5%. Big disappointment there. Walkart is heaving some sigh of relief. Now there's a 5% up move on the stock after the slam dunk following the FDA issues. We are seeing a positive move on Oil India. Good results coming through for the company. Some of these OFS names are still struggling. Puravankara, for instance, is down 2.5%. JSW Energy is also trading on the lower side. Idea Cellular, of course, with news coming in that they are being pulled up for contempt of court. Stock is trading slightly lower, about 0.5% down as we see it. Bharti is actually up and Arcom is up 1.5%. So this is how it's playing itself out. Crompton, the numbers were a little shy of expectations. No major turnaround seen in their businesses yet. There's a 2% decline on the stock as we can see. In fact, speaking of Crompton, let's pull up the entire infra and cap goods pack. Very, very quiet at the start of Monday. Most of these stocks are trading with a cut of 0.5% to about 1%. Your IRB Infra, Punj, Lloyd, IVRCL, Hindustan Construction Company, GMR, all these stocks are down between 0.5% to around 1%. That's how it's looking like, at least for the time being. Some more stocks in news. JP Infra, which has sold land to Gore Sons, then in return they'll be getting about 1,500 crore rupees. Stocks up nearly 2.5%. So these are the newsmakers for the morning. Just checking if there's anything that stands out. Pretty much it. That's how it looks like, at least for the time. Britannia Industries, the clear star, an 11% up move underway on Britannia now. Ambareesh, so let's talk about some of these movers and shakers. Britannia, 11% up. I don't know if you had a chance to look at the numbers.
I think these numbers were absolutely, like out of expectation and clearly surprised us. And it still confirms that, like at least the consumer demand in that space is still like intact. And because of which clearly we have seen that sort of a move in Britannia today. I think that should continue for a while longer.
Ambareesh, Subhi was discussing Reliance Industries with you earlier as well, but I want to get a sense on the oil and gas pack as a whole itself. Last week we had some clarity regarding how subsidy could actually pan out for ONGC. Is that a theme that's probably getting a little active and one can actually focus on from a near-term angle?
I think this pack one should really look at the marketing companies where clearly it's been a game changer. And especially in the last few days when we saw that correction, I think that's a buying opportunity because if you're talking of the next couple of years, in fact, I see these OMCs, could be multi-baggers going ahead.
Ambareesh, the auto pack's taking somewhat of a knock today. M&M, Bajaj Auto, Hero Moto, all actually trading on the lower side. Your thoughts on this space?
In fact, I've been saying for the past few months that the risk-reward ratio surely is not favorable because quite a few of them, especially Maruti, Tata Motors, we have seen an extremely good run-up. And really looking at the monthly figures and the sort of valuation at which these are quoting, clearly the risk-reward ratio was not favorable. And since we are expecting the numbers to be weak over the next couple of months, it didn't make sense staying in this space. So even at the current levels, I would say possibly it's time to book out to a certain extent, especially Tata Motors and Maruti.
What about the financial space? You had the overhang regarding SBI numbers that actually come out. How are you positioned now in terms of going from next, let's say, a month or so? Would the focus again rely on the private space itself, or would you look at some of these PSBs as well?
Clearly, I think we'll look at both the spaces, but I think private sector will give you better returns. So, in fact, we're looking at Axis, Yes Bank, and BCB in the private sector, and also IndusInd. But you really can't ignore the PSU space. So from that point of view, clearly we would be focusing on SBI. Although the numbers are poor, but then I think going ahead, clearly I think the asset quality is bound to improve, and especially with the expected cut in rates. Clearly we are expecting at least another 50 to 75 basis points in the current year. I think that should be one more trigger I think for most of these banks to move up, and I think a stock like SBI, after the sort of a correction which you have seen post the results, I think it's a good buy. In fact, we are looking at levels of about 2600, 2650 over the next 8 to 9 months.
Ambareesh, what did you think of the Larsen earnings and the 12 to 15% drubbing the stock got after that? What's your stance now?
In fact, these numbers were clearly a disappointment, but I think going ahead, we also expect the order flows to increase by about 20% year on year. And again, looking at revenue, increasing about 15 to 17% year on year. From that point of view, again, looking at the sort of a drubbing this stock got, I think at these levels it makes sense buying because, we expect green shoots to appear on the capital goods space going ahead in the next couple of months. I think that should be a trigger for the cap goods space, and I think the best buy out there is L&T. We still have a price target of about 1830, 1840 for this stock.
What's the sense on some of the road players? I know because these companies, you do track closely and you've been waiting to see green shoots and signs of a turnaround. Any of that visible for the likes of an IRB or the others that have reported numbers?
As of now, it's not visible, but then we expect that there should be a change in fortunes for these companies over the next couple of months. Clearly, we really can't do without roads, and there has to be a proper policy, which again should be favorable for these road companies like GMR or like IRB. So I think at these levels it makes sense buying, but then one should have a patience at least for the next 12 to 15 months.
Ambareesh, what about the pharma pack as well? Last week there was a lot of news flow regarding some of the top companies, their large cap players, and it sent some jitters down the entire sector as well, but not barring the fact that you've already seen a decent amount of run up for some of these stocks like Sun Pharma and Lupin, which are probably top gainers on a year-to-date basis on the index itself. How are you positioned as far as the healthcare space goes? Because the other talking point there is valuations are still pretty expensive.
Valuations are pretty expensive, but then clearly there is a shift from the old players, to the new players on the block. So, earlier if you're talking of stocks like Dr. Reddy, Ranbaxy or possibly Cipla, clearly now that shift has happened to stocks like Sun Pharma, Lupin and Dr. Reddy. So I think these are three stocks which should be, which should be there in the portfolio. In case you need to have a pharma exposure, I think these are three stocks.
Ambareesh, since we're talking about the healthcare space, are you been tracking developments regarding Wockhardt? The company is going to be reporting numbers today. Any comment on that one?
Wockhardt again, after the sort of a run-up which we saw, nearly became 4x in the last 12 to 15 months. Again, at these levels, the risk-reward ratio is not really favorable. And we have clearly seen that one bit of adverse news, and you saw the stock really taking a drubbing of about 25-30%. So in case, these figures really don't meet the market expectations, you can expect a drubbing going ahead.
Ambareesh, I'm sorry to be repetitive on this, but would just like to get your attention back to Britannia. The stock is now up nearly 15%. Is this market overreaction coming through, or do you think really there is another story unfolding here, or something that was so exceptional in the numbers that inspires this kind of confidence?
See, basically with so much of adverse news around, clearly people are looking for pockets where they can actually park money for longer term, and especially when stocks like these show you good results, quarter on quarter, year on year, and at least, if you're looking ahead, you're seeing at least some light at the end of the tunnel. Clearly, people prefer to shift into those stocks, and because of which, people are willing to pay a premium, and that's exactly what we're seeing in this.
All right, Ambareesh, we leave it there. Thanks so much for joining us this morning and getting us perspectives there. So you coming in from Edelweiss, Reliance Industries and Britannia on the mid-cap are two stocks that are on fire today. Reliance Industries 4% high, and that's really giving a lot of support to the index as well. Britannia Industries up 14% on the back of its earnings.
The two stocks that are making headlines this morning. The Nifty is holding up nice and steady thanks to RIL. That's where we take you, Lee. Thanks for joining in. But In Business is coming up next.